Apple's Scary Fast event. This is Mac Voices. Today's edition of Mac Voices is supported by MacVoices Featured Gear, like the OWC Thunderbolt Hub. No matter which Mac you have, you can always use more connectivity, and the OWC Thunderbolt Hub delivers. Visit MacVoices.com/featured gear and do more with your tech. Welcome to Mac Voices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, it's Halloween night, and we are on Mac Voices Live at YouTube, on YouTube at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV. You can join us. We have our friends jumping into the chat room right now, and hopefully more will come. There are a few of our panelists that couldn't join us tonight because they're busy tricking or treating or both. But we have a pretty full panel here to discuss, or at least we're going to start off discussing Apple's Scary Fast event from last night. And so there's quite a bit to talk about. And if we finish that up, we'll get to some other things too. Let's go around the room and see who's here and what they're dressed as, and then we'll take it from there. In the corner, well, normally it's the corner of the angels. Tonight might be the corner of the devils since it is Halloween. Dave Ginsburg is here. Dave, good to see you.
Good to see you, Chuck. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it was so scary. We had some trick-or-treaters earlier tonight, and it was kind of funny sitting up here watching my Google Hub, and they were coming up, and I yelled at my wife, "Hey, the kids are out there." Then I get to watch what we're being very generous this year, giving them full-size candy bars. So,
wow.
But it's good to see everybody, and that's kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Jim Ray is here with what might be my favorite background that he's ever had. Jim, good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you as well.
Yeah,
I've got my Apple Park shirt.
Oh, you're just
nice.
You're just decked out top to bottom. Eric Bolden is here with a little bit of a new background this time, and I guess it's fairly timely, Eric.
Well, in honor of the dusting of snow today, I got the oak leaves with a little bit of snow, so nice fall themed.
I like it.
It's almost always either rain or snow or something on Halloween. So
yeah, I like it. I have the feeling that you may be turning into the Al Roker of this show with the graphics for the weather. So keep it going. Next up, joining us the whole way from across the pond and staying up very late just to talk to us, Patrice Brend'amour. Patrice, it's great to see you. Are you really here just to talk to us, or did you come because of you wanted to keep Halloween going?
Kind of a little bit of both, I would say. I really was looking forward to talking to you, but also I wanted to keep Halloween going a little bit longer. So there's that.
Great. Well, it's good to have you. Good to have you. Ben Roethig is here in a very nice Halloween orange T-shirt. Ben, good to see you.
Hey, it's good to see you too, Chuck. And Patrice, I will be needing some Girl Scout cookies.
Yeah, it's true. It's supposed to be a pumpkin, but it looks a little bit like Ghost Crowns. You're right.
Okay, so it's a zombie Girl Scout. That may even be more disturbing than a pumpkin.
I'll take it.
Jeff Gamet is here from his bunker, not in his usual haunt tonight. Jeff, good to have you.
It's great to be here from the cozy security of my my underground bunker, and my costume. It's all black. I'm going as your soul.
Thank you, Jeff.
That's the negative.
Well, I mean, I can't go as mine because I'm a redhead, so I don't have one.
I didn't know that. Okay.
That's the thing. Redheads don't have souls. That's why we go out at night and steal them. I have a shoebox under my bed.
Never heard that.
So I actually technically do have souls. They're just not mine.
Oh. Okay. Good to know. This true confessions here. Mark Fuccio, also with a very timely background. Mark, good to see you.
Hello, everyone. It's really scary last night. I'm still recovering.
Yeah.
I'm afraid for everyone's wallets.
Yeah. Glass of wine in hand just to soothe for the evening. Last but absolutely not least, joining us while we were doing the introductions, Ms. Kelly Guimont. Kelly, welcome. Good to have you.
You don't need to see my identification.
So are you dressed
We
as
don't
not
need
the
to see your
choice you're looking
identification.
are you dressed as a nun or what is that?
No, it's my Jedi robes.
As if I really needed to ask.
I mean, Chuck,
Apparently you did.
we've ever met. Come on.
Yeah, I had a pretty good idea. So I've had the my costume on, and I'm going to take it off because I look ridiculous. So I'm going to turn.
Nice stash.
Yeah, really. It won't go. It won't go away. This is not good.
Well, Chuck,
If you had just,
guess
if
it's
you
time
had-
for that puberty talk.
Yeah.
if you'd just gone for like the full, like the Magnum Ted Lasso, like I would have declared you the winner of the contest.
No, couldn't quite go that far. So I'm gonna. There, I found the right button to get rid of it. Jeez, it's ridiculous. So scary fast. We now have new MacBook Pros. We have a new iMac, and those were the main announcements. So I'm kind of curious to see, what reaction everyone had, because some of the leakers got part of it right, but there were an awful lot of things that were talked about that just didn't happen.
Wasn't it fun? I thought it was
Was.
fun.
The event?
It was.
You
I
mean?
did too.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I think it
enjoyed
could have
it.
been more fun. Like when
Yes.
he says, over to Johnny with more. Like if we'd gone at least, by the white room really slowly, that would have been funny. The ghost of someone somewhere, like the closest anyone got to any of the people, because like the intro was cute with all the bats and the fog and everything, but like, we could have leaned in a little more than Tim's wearing all black and an orange Apple Watch Ultra band. Ooh, come on.
They
Yeah,
could
I
have,
never-
Little
but
fog behind him.
for Tim Cook, this was crazy stuff.
Oh, because he put on shoes that didn't have big chunky white soles on the bottom. Like, I mean,
Mhm.
that was the only like revolution in his outfit. Like, I knew nobody was going to go full Priscilla, like Jeff said last week, which I've literally been thinking about ever since. But it would have been nice to see a little something. I mean, if you're gonna do something that you've never done before, you've never done an event in the evening, you've never done an event the night before Halloween, you've never done any of these things before, like cop to it a little bit in the presentation, not just in we flew over and there were bats,
Well, I mean, Johnny Scroogey kind of looked like Frankenstein, right?
Well, he's very
Yeah, and all the sets were kind of sets were.
He stands like this and has kind of an unidentifiable accent, and like if he'd just been standing there with a cat, in his mysterious underground lair, that would have been a different story. Like something, just a little, a little bit more of a wink than just the bats at the beginning,
But I would say, Patrice, last night we were chatting in our Slack channel here for all the Mac Voices people. I made the same comments about Johnny, and Chuck pointed out that it's Dr. Frankenstein is the doctor. His creation was the monster.
Yeah, but I meant him.
I said he needed the bolts in the neck. That's what he looked like to me too.
I have to tell you, when they said we're going to go to Johnny, I thought, oh my God, Johnny Ive is going to make a Halloween appearance.
Right? Me too.
Just for just a second, it was a different Johnny.
Just for a second. It would.
Yeah, but it doesn't work because in the white room it's not dark enough.
Yeah.
They could have gone to the outside of the white room, chains across the doors rattling, and muffled voice inside. Let me out, let me out.
Go by like a cemetery. There used to be the Icon Garden at Infinite Loop. Like go by a bunch of little tombstones, something like just a wink to it having been, the night before Halloween, and we called it Scary Fast for that reason and everything. Like
their marketing wasn't that. Their crack marketing team didn't think through this.
I'm starting to
They might be drunk.
Yeah,
starting to doubt their marketing team.
But you know what? I kind of liked it, and maybe I just wasn't in the spirit.
Yeah.
But I thought it was subtle. There were nice little touches, but we weren't there to see Apple play, Halloween. We were there to see, what we saw. And so I liked that it was almost like a nod to Halloween, a nod to the fact that we're doing something a little bit different. And certainly, as it turned out, I don't think any of us were, well, I wasn't expecting a black MacBook Pro. So that was a surprise too. But all that said, yeah, I didn't, you feel like there were some opportunities missed, but at the same time, I'm afraid it would have turned into maybe just a little too much. And so as it was, I thought it was tastefully done, stuck to the topic with just that little acknowledgement, and then moved on. So it's each to their own.
Better
I
than
agree with you,
wasting
Chuck. I
time
thought it was
we did
perfect.
with Mother Nature. Back at WWDC, I was glad they were in and out in a half hour. I thought that was great. Kudos. Do it again next time. Do more of these. Single purpose or single product line rollout events instead of trying to dump everything together and get 90 minutes, 2 hours of people's lives.
In the past, they had to, because they were bringing journalists in some of them were flying from far away. You can't have somebody fly across the country and then do a 30-minute presentation. But since they're not doing that anymore, they can, they could do it in 10 minutes if they wanted.
Exactly. Brand new world. Brand new world. I mean, brand new world. I think the hidden message was, if you have an Intel Mac, you're going to get something that at least 6 times faster if you go to an M3. So just dump the old stuff and move forward to something scary fast.
Shorter, Mark Fuccio. If you still have an Intel Mac, why?
I don't.
I was surprised to see some developers in my Mastodon feed today that were mentioning that they still had Intel, like prominent developers, and I was like, "You got to be kidding!" Yeah. Like Reese, he was like, he still has an Intel Mac.
Yeah, it's not been that long. Like, I mean, we're forgetting. We're forgetting. Like, it's not been that long that we've had the M series Mac. So if you bought one right before,
3 years.
Yeah,
it's been
almost
3
exactly
years.
3 years. You could have an Intel Mac that's still under the original AppleCare on the original 3-year terms. You could still have one with
2020.
a reasonable amount of time left. Because I'm on my one of the earliest shipping M1 MacBook Pros, and I got that in December, I think, of 2020. So it's not unusual. But also Basecamp. Like, if you are somebody that needs Windows to run on Intel hardware, not just in a simulator.
Bootcamp.
Then Basecamp, Bootcamp. I don't know, the thing. The one that makes Windows run on your Mac. That thing is the thing. And I think a lot of
these days
people
you can emulate it better than on an M1 than run it in Bootcamp.
Right.
Yeah, but for people who need the hardware, who need it to run straight on the hardware without emulation, and there's certain things that require that. That's still a thing that people need. When that gets better, that's a different conversation.
For me, the event could have been longer. I was so enjoying it. I was actually baking bread. I was like, oh yeah, I got time. I can at 1 a.m. I can still bake my bread. It's gonna take an hour. And then it was then half an hour. And I'm like, okay, now I have to wait 30, 40 minutes until the bread is done and I can go to bed. I'm like, But so it was so much fun. I just wanted more.
But Patrice, that's an interesting point. It did leave you wanting more, and I kind of like that, as opposed to the times when some of the presentations start to drag out just a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd love to give credit to it, and I'm not sure who said it today on one of the social media platforms, but they said this was almost like a video press release, and it was, and I thought it worked. It really did.
But a really good video. But, actually, I thought this one kind of dragged at the beginning. I thought they could have spent less time with and I'm a techie, right? But all the stuff about the caching and the GPU and stuff. I mean, I couldn't even follow that stuff. So I thought it got better as it got into it, and by the end of it, I had the same feeling like, oh, it's ending. Oh, okay.
Well,
Darn.
Jim, I agreed with you at the start, and then as the thing unfolded, I realized that basically what they were doing is they were delivering talking points for people who have
Sure.
Intel Macs, so that they can use these talking points to get an upgrade. Because they mentioned explicitly it's 6 times faster than Intel Mac. They said that 3 different times. Their other comparisons were against predominantly an M1 Mac, and the M2 was they had performance things, but they didn't articulate it. It's up to 60% faster than an M1, and their slides were like 15 or 20% compared to the M2, which they don't want to trash something they just introduced 8 or so months ago. So I think here the hidden message was everybody with older Macs, time to upgrade.
Yeah.
And we're making it attractive and super fast and lowering some of the entry level prices to boot.
Yeah. Today's edition of Mac Voices is supported by MacVoices Featured Gear, like the OWC Thunderbolt Hub. No matter which Mac you have, you can always use more connectivity, and the OWC Thunderbolt Hub delivers with 3 Thunderbolt 4 ports that are USB-C compatible and a USB-A port that is USB 3.2 Gen 2 compatible. The hub delivers 60 watts of charging power, and because it's externally powered, doesn't compromise on performance. Find the links at macvoices.com/featuredgear. Ben Roethig is ghostly. He's appearing and disappearing outside of his control. So Ben, glad you're able to get back in.
Yes, my ISP decided it was to give me the trick instead of the treat.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Thankfully, Apple gave us the treats.
Yeah, exactly.
Barry in the YouTube chat is bringing up a really good point. I was really impressed that they shot the entire thing with an iPhone 15 Pro Max.
Yeah.
Sure, with a ton of professional equipment. They said, and there was a making of video, they said they could just integrate the iPhone into their existing stuff, into their existing workflows. There was nothing special really about it. And that was really impressive, especially at night. Like, it wasn't a day shoot where like you have perfect lighting and everything. It was at night.
And you
Well,
showed that article.
Patrice, they
about
still
the,
had perfect lighting and
Yeah, sure.
other
They had to
equipment.
control it for sure. But I mean, they had drone shots. They had everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was one of those things. The message was so very subtle that it just appeared at the end. It didn't appear for very long. They didn't make a big
and nobody
deal out of
mentioned it in the video. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't an iPhone event, right? It was just, but
Yeah.
I thought that was, when I saw that at the end, that to me was one of the big headlines of it, was they shot the whole thing. And I know that that was not all, there were lights, there was, other equipment involved, but still, like, if they hadn't said anything, everyone would have presumed it was just level equipment with a bunch of big cameras and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
Equipment costing 100 times as much.
Right.
Hey, Chuck, I have seen a lot of people bagging on Apple saying shot on an iPhone, but then they had all this other professional equipment. And yes, they did. For those people, they're missing the point. The point is Apple pulled what was probably just a camera red out of the mix and dropped an iPhone in its place, and still had an incredibly professional video shoot. And that's the takeaway there. And it worked, and it was great. And the fact that they could do that, there's a lot of people that can look at this as an example of what they will be able to do when they have an iPhone 15 Pro Max in hand.
Even better that you shared, Patrice, earlier today in our Slack chat about the video that shows the behind the scenes of it. I haven't had a chance to watch the whole thing. I know it's like about 2 minutes, but I think it's pretty amazing that Apple did that, because that's not something they'll tell you about the behind the scenes. But the reason they're doing it is because they want to prove that the iPhone 15 Pro Max can be a professional camera.
Or actually, I would agree with Jeff. I think this is more that, yes, if you have the skills and things, you can make really professional grade looking movies on a $1,500 device. You don't need to spend $1,500 a day to rent, one of the an Arri or Red or other digital cameras used in Hollywood. So it's sort of like the hidden thing. I knew all sorts of people at Adobe that their hidden market was not so much professional photographers who they knew were locked up who would use it. Their growth is all about the aspirational people, amateurs, who have lots of discretionary time and income that they want to get. And I think Apple is trying to do and show the same thing here, that you can if you have the skills, and not everyone needs all these gimbals and mounts they're doing, but somebody else could come out and do a 2024 version of that breakaway Blair Witch Project from whatever it was, 94 or 96 or something. So I think they're subtly showing that if you have this talent and you have a great story, you don't have to spend big bucks. You can just use a phone in your pocket.
And look, the external equipment, that's a fair point to get to the quality that Apple did. But on the other hand, they would have had to have that same equipment without the iPhone, whatever camera they were using. So that
I don't think it is a fair point.
I think to bring it up, and so that you don't set the expectations that I can take my phone out and have it look like Tim Cook did standing in front of
it. Just said shot on iPhone.
Yeah,
and they have even the little disclaimer, like other professional equipment was used. Like it's
right. So, listen, we're talking a lot about the event itself, but let's get to the meat of things, and that is the machines and the M1s or M3s. Excuse me, M3s. Let's start with the iMac because that's arguably the most affordable one out there, and it's probably now it's confirmed as Apple's consumer machine. So an M3, no M2, no options for M2, jump right to an M3, and to have the option of a Pro or Max in there as well is, I think, very interesting.
No,
not the iMac is only The iMac is only M3.
iMac is no.
Did I just say
iMac
Pro or
is
Max?
no Gussie and up.
No, but you said Pro or Max. There's no option for Pro or Max in the iMac.
Oh no,
Right.
Okay, then I have that wrong.
No.
Okay, so it's just in that which the M3 is nothing to sneeze at, just like the M1 was nothing to sneeze at.
Right.
So, how is this the upgrade we've been waiting for?
Well,
No.
I don't think so. I think the iMac was always aimed towards consumer. I mean, you aren't going to see professionals going to be using this anymore. It's long gone to the days we had the iMac Pro, and now we've got the iMac. And it showed when they introduced it with the M1. What was it, 3 years ago, and it sat and never got any love for all that time. So the M3 is perfectly fine for the machine, but with the max 24 gigs of RAM and that limitation and the processor of only M3, but it's still a great machine for someone who just wants a good Mac and have the all-in-one.
Have we been waiting for it? Maybe we're not the target audience, like Dave said.
Right.
But I can totally see us even having a use case. Just like I have a use case for a base level Mac Mini. Right. That's just it's not a Pro, not a Max. It's just an M2, nothing else. But for what I need it for, it's fine. So there could be use cases where you say, I don't need the Pro machine. I just need whatever, something sitting somewhere in a corner, looking good, and I use it for special things. So why not?
And to me,
go ahead, Ben.
To me, this is the iMac returning to its Bondi Blue roots. It's basically the 27-inch and the iMac Pro are gone, but we're at the point where it makes a great education machine. It makes a great family machine, and it's nice and colorful.
Yes.
With an M3 in it, it's a solid machine no matter what. I would go so far as to say that the iMac Pro was the exception, not the rule. The point of the iMac, when it started as a gumdrop, when it turned into the little blade, Like it was always meant for not necessarily pro users. It may be more than adequate for certain people for certain things, but it also may not be. But you know, if you need more power, if you need more screen, you can buy a mini for a lot less and still come in at less than a mini than an iMac would cost you with a really nice display on it. So,
on a Mac Studio.
If you need even more power than what a mini will give you on your desktop, then you can get a Mac Studio. You can get a Mac Studio with a monster processor in it. You can get a Mac Pro and hook it up to some sort of gigantic, Jeff Gamet level ultra wide screen if that's your jam. But the iMac was always sort of meant to be the consumer device, and I think that's exactly like Ben said. Like this is just returning to its roots. It was never a pro machine. It was just an act of revolution in the first place to be like, we slapped a whole computer behind the display like that, and then also it was colorful. Like those were the two big things that it did initially. And it was never meant to be the machine that had all the horsepower all the time, So yeah, I think it's great because it also got updated recently, and that's good too.
Jeff?
Okay. We all need to remember in our echo chamber that this is a consumer machine for consumers. Mm-hmm. And it's also easy to lose sight of the fact that Apple has put processors in the iMac, that M3 processor, the base processor, the one where everyone's like, really? That's our only option? Holy crap. The computing power in that processor is more than most people can even comprehend. This is more computer than most people will ever be able to fully utilize. Mm-hmm. And to sit here and say, well, this is just like Apple's kind of ripping us off. They're not even giving us a full computer. Holy forking shirtballs, people. This is way beyond supercomputer level. And this is Apple's consumer all-in-one machine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Barry in the chat room brings up a point that we were going to get to sooner or later, one way or another, that this was not the upgrade his dad wanted. His dad wanted the 27-inch display. But he also said that they did lean into the 4.5K display that provides as many pixels as a 27-inch. Mm-hmm. So, it's an
That's
interesting...
not correct.
It's not?
27-inch was 5K.
No, that was a separate thing. There was the 5K iMac and there was a 27-inch.
Yeah, those aren't the same.
27-inch had a 5K display.
Nope.
Sure it did.
They had two different machines.
I see Jeff going for the keyboard.
Chuck,
I'm firing up Mac Tracker.
5K iMac. What was your screen size?
The fact remains that maybe what Barry's dad needs is a mini and as much monitor as his heart desires.
Well, Barry says he wants a Mac Mini M3 Pro. So, but this brings up another interesting thing, that now we have the most powerful machines being laptops, and the desktop machines, although there seems to be some articles today going back and forth about, at least until you move up to the Macs, if I say this right, the M2 Ultra may be more powerful than the M3 Pro. Mm-hmm. I think I've got that right. So
M3 Max,
the M3,
the M3
Max might be, the M3 Max may be more powerful than the announced at WWDC M2 Ultra.
Okay, so I don't know. This
it depends on what more powerful means too. What are you doing? So it could be your task might be faster on an M2 Ultra. Someone else's task might be faster on an M3 Max. It depends on what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But they're both going to be pretty fast. So,
yeah, good point, Jeff. What are the results of your research?
Okay, so if you want a 5K iMac, the 27-inch model starting in 2017 was available that way, and that continued up through the 2020 model, which was discontinued in March 2022. So, so as of March 2022, there was no 5K iMac option available anymore.
Right. When they discontinued the Intel one, the Intel one was 5K. Then when they discontinued the Intel one, then they didn't have a 27-inch 5K anymore. But the current iMac does not have as many pixels as the Intel one did for the last several years. Right. It's, fairly close. It's a nice display, but it's not quite as much. But I was always puzzled by the whole all-in-one thing for most applications. I always used, I wanted basically a Mac Mini or a Mac Studio so that, people were throwing away perfectly good monitors on the regular so they could get updated processors, right? Now you don't have to do that anymore. So, it seems to me for most people, they're much better off on this paradigm that Apple is now, and Apple used to it seemed like planned obsolescence. Like, we're going to make you buy, this very expensive monitor over and over again because your processor's obsolete. Whereas, people often hang on to monitors for a long time. I know I have in the past.
Patrice?
Yeah, so it fits right in with this discussion. I mean, the iMac kind of comes from a different era. It's from the desktop era, like we said, we had at some point we had 3 different sizes. We had the small, whatever it was. I think originally was it 20-inch, 21-inch?
21.
I think it was originally 18.
21.5.
Yeah, and then we had the bigger ones, like I think 24 and later 27.
24,
and then we
27,
and then we had the Pro. And
I think the first iMacs were 15 inches.
Yeah, sure. But they were all step by step replaced. They were replaced by more powerful MacBooks, by MacBook Airs, by MacBook Pros, by the Mac Studio, by the Mac Mini, by the Mac Pro, by a lot of other devices where you didn't, as Jim said, where you didn't need to buy that display. Where you could use a display that you had, and Apple even nowadays at least, again, offers something that you can buy. So I think, the question is, what is the iMac for these days? And I think it is for these, like what Ben I think said, schools, reception desks at hotels, the areas where you want something that looks nice and is functional.
Yeah,
I think that's for the most part it, because everything else is mobile these days. It's a MacBook Air.
Oh,
it's a
you're
phone.
right about the reception desk.
Or it's a phone, yeah.
It's a phone. It's an iPad.
Yeah.
If what you really need is just more acreage than an iPad, then maybe an iMac is for you. I mean, it's really, if you have specific needs, you're generally not looking at an iMac to do that anyway, unless that specific need is to match the color that you've painted the walls or something, then, for the most part, most people are going to part it out anyway so that I can get a specific display, so that I can get a processor that does a specific thing. If you just need something in the corner to occasionally, so the kids can play games while you're all in the kitchen or whatever, or, casual, light duty sort of thing, then, that's going to be the primary function. So I think there's absolutely a market for it. And I'm glad to see that it's continuing to get attention, because for a long time, it was like, hey, iMac, you in there, buddy?
Just like the
you
Mac
kind of
Mini.
had to wonder, and like the Mini for a long time. So it's nice to see it getting attention in any way. So I'm glad to see a little bit of a general spiff aside from nudging the horsepower in that dramatically.
This panel is back next time to talk more about Apple's Scary Fast event and the announcements that included the new M3 iMac, the new M3 MacBook Pros, and more. I'm Chuck Joyner. I'll see you next time on MacVoices. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices each month. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.